Chapter 11. Contrast. Ventus was sitting up in a stupor atop the bed where he had awakened. "Does it hurt anywhere?" Aqua asked. There was no response from Ventus. Master Ericus and Terra had come running, and they stood behind her as she peered into his face and tried again. "Are you in pain?" "Are you hungry?" While the last question didn't get a verbal response, Ventus did incline his head a bit. "I still have some of that cake I made yesterday, so I'll bring it over." Aqua trotted out of the bedroom. "You got a sweet tooth? If you don't, let her know now," Terra said, patting Ventus lightly on the shoulder in apparent relief that he'd come back to his senses. Ventus still stared at nothing, though. Aqua returned, carrying a tray bearing a white sponge cake decorated with crystal sugar. "Eating cake in bed isn't exactly good manners, but I think we can let it slide today, Ventus," Aqua said to him with a chuckle. The boy still didn't react. Regardless, Aqua cut off a bite-sized piece of cake with a fork and held it up to Ventus's mouth. His head slowly revolved to look at her, like he was some mechanical automaton. "There you go. Now open wide. Come on, I'm sure this'll perk you right up." When Aqua opened her mouth to demonstrate, Ventus lightly opened his as well. When Aqua slid the piece of cake inside, Ventus closed his lips over it and chewed softly. "Pretty sweet, huh?" Terra offered. While he didn't respond to Terra, Ventus did open his mouth again. "Guess that means you like it. Good. Do you think you can eat all by yourself?" Aqua asked. Ventus went still. She handed him the plate and fork, and while he didn't vocalize anything, Ventus did accept them and began shoveling cake into his mouth. "Oh, good." "It seems the boy's mind is still rather muddled. Let's not push him too hard. Our care for him should be gentle and gradual." "Yes, sir." Terra and Aqua both bowed at Master Ericus's instructions. "Just enjoy the sugary cake of Aqua's and rest up for today," Terra advised. "Terra always complains that Aqua's cakes are too sweet, but I admit I enjoy them, don't you, Ventus?" Master Ericus said with a stroke of his beard. Terra gave a small sigh and shook his head. "You enjoy them too much, Master." "No, you simply enjoy them too little." "They're just not my favorite. It's not like I hate cake." As Terra and Master Ericus went at it, Aqua giggled next to them. "You like cake just fine if it has nuts in it, Terra, and if it's not too sweet. Master, will you have some too?" "Of course." Master Ericus nodded rather contentedly. "And Terra, I made sure to leave off the crystal sugar on some of it, just for you," she told him. "Well, in that case," Terra said with relief. Beside the other three, Ventus quietly munched on his cake. In the wind-whipped wasteland, Vanitas clutched his knees and closed his eyes. The stirring in Ventus's heart was terribly sluggish. In fact, he couldn't really tell if it was moving at all. And yet, he could still perceive a strange temperate warmth, like lukewarm water pouring over his chest. However, instead of heating him up, it created an almost instant chill inside his heart. In fact, it left him colder than he'd been before the water. Vanitas could sense the unrest around him, but the only sound in his ears was the wind. The impulses of hatred and sorrow within Vanitas hadn't flowed out of him, as if they were attuned to the lethargic movements of Ventus's heart. The days merely passed in a haze. Maybe these days of inactivity were the dominion of the darkness? Vanitas had no idea when the worlds would make their move either. He could only believe the future he'd been allotted was very bleak indeed. He possessed but one sole, singular hope, the Keyblade. As always, Terra and Aqua practiced their swordplay beside a pond partway up the trail to the mountaintop outside the castle. Well, it wasn't swords they had held, but wooden blades, Keyblades. Both of them used these practice weapons fashioned in the shape of Keyblades in their training. Ventus observed absent-mindedly from where he sat on the bench. Actually, it was hard to tell if he was truly watching them. A small bird swooped down toward his feet. It hopped onto his foot, then onto his knee before finally stopping on his shoulder. Ventus didn't react at all. Terra and Aqua saw this and shared a glance. While Ventus had proven himself capable of taking care of his needs and doing what he was told, he never acted of his own volition. Unless Terra, Aqua, or Master Ericus said otherwise, he would spend the entire day staring into space. And the biggest thing was that he never spoke. "Ventus!" Terra called. The little bird flitted off, and Ventus looked at Terra. "Let's take a break." Aqua stopped as well, then approached the bench. She picked up the basket she'd left by his feet and graced him with a smile. Ta-da! She pulled out some small cupcakes from within. I put in lots of wild nuts and some big almonds today. Just the way I like 'em. Terra accepted one of the snacks from Aqua. And here's yours, Ventus. She handed a cupcake to the boy. He stared intently at the treat. Go on, try it, she prompted. Ventus brought the cake to his mouth, and Terra took a bite of his at the same time. Oh man, this is good. I swear, Aqua, this is the one girly thing about you. And what is this one girly thing about me exactly? Like how you love sweets and baking cakes. Come on, Ventus, back me up. Terra sought his affirmation, but Ventus merely ate his cake in silence. That's not true, is it? Some guys like sweets too, like the Master, for instance. Speaking of the Master, yesterday he said it was about time we started Ventus's training too, Terra said, and wiped his mouth after wolfing down his cupcake. Ventus's training? Aqua asked, slightly apprehensive. Should we give it a shot? Terra gave the wooden keyblade he held to Ventus. The boy gazed at the practice weapon, then flipped it into a reverse grip and stood from the bench. That's an interesting way to hold it. Okay, let's do this. Aqua watched the other two to make sure nothing went wrong. The moment Terra raised his wooden keyblade, Ventus staggered. The practice weapon fell to the ground, and the boy cradled his head. Ventus! Aqua rushed up and caught him just before he could keel over. Ventus was unconscious, just as he'd been when he first arrived. I'm scared. Vanitas gasped and gripped his chest as the sudden wave of a tense emotion swept over him with stabbing pain. Was this Ventus? He couldn't think of anything else, but soon he felt nothing at all. What remained was a slight lingering ache. Vanitas exhaled deeply as he got his breathing back under control. Ventus's heart had gone still again, but something was definitely happening to it. Vanitas could also sense the stirrings of another much, much younger heart. Don't let it get you down, Terra. Aqua encouraged her friend as she leaned against a wall with her arms crossed, her gaze lowered. I shouldn't have done that while the Master wasn't there. It was rare for Terra to be this upset about something. The only time he had ever acted this way was after a scolding from Master Ericus. It must have been a shock to be responsible for someone fainting. Neither of them had ever harmed anyone by their own hands. They were still trainees, after all. Don't you think the Master's lecture was enough punishment? Aqua knelt down by Ventus's bedside and softly touched the sleeping boy's brow. She'd wondered why he had fallen as soon as he took hold of the wooden blade. Maybe it had something to do with his lost memories? Aqua carefully observed Ventus as he slept. She wasn't especially concerned. She had a feeling he would awaken soon. Why was that? Maybe intuition? I'm sure he'll wake up any time now. Hey, see? As if on cue, Ventus's eyes had slowly opened. Ventus! Terra called out his name and came up alongside the bed. Next to him, Aqua gently looked Ventus over and asked, Are you alright? Do you feel sick at all? With Aqua's help, Ventus sat up gradually, holding his forehead. A slightly confused look came over his face. He peered intently at the two of them. Aqua... Terra? He said. That's right, Aqua and Terra. Oh, I'm so glad you're back with us. Overjoyed that he was not only awake, but had said their names, Aqua gave Ventus a hug. Master, Ventus is awake, Terra called exuberantly. I see you've returned, Ventus. Master Ericus smiled when he arrived at the room. Yes, and he called us by our names, Aqua announced as she stood. Master Ericus nodded with pleasure. Did he? We're making a bit of progress then, but we still must not rush him. Yes, Master, Terra answered quietly. Ventus regarded their interaction with a hint of puzzlement. Xehanort loomed over Vanitas, his keyblade in hand. Come at me, boy. Your tempering has only begun. As Vanitas got to his feet with a groan, Xehanort lunged toward him in a flash and kicked him in the jaw. Vanitas went crashing to the ground again. During Xehanort's occasional returns to this ancient battleground, he would beat Vanitas with his keyblade and then leave. The solitude cultivated his loathing and made him stronger. That was why Vanitas had been abandoned here, but it still wasn't enough. It wasn't enough, and that in turn was why the Master needed to return at times for training. While Vanitas did sometimes cry out and weep, This time, he merely gritted his teeth and got to his feet again. It was impossible to deny that a dark heart could have become full to bursting with sadness and loneliness. Still, that was far from strength. Such feelings could be left to the unversed. What Vanitas needed to acquire was overwhelming power, and that called for isolation and hatred. True darkness lay beyond his dried tears. Now, Vanitas, let your hatred grow. Turn it loose upon everything in the world. Unverse emerged from the boy kneeling on the ground. Xehanort chuckled as he watched. Ventus was absent-mindedly watching Terra and Aqua's training in the Great Hall again today. Strike harder! That wasn't enough for a real Keyblade! The master shouted as Terra was knocked back. Aqua was next. Though the two of them tried their hardest, they were no match for their teacher. I'm ready! Aqua got back to her feet and challenged the master once more. Her wooden sword went flying and tumbled near Ventus's feet. He was supposed to just stay sitting there, but Ventus rose from his chair and picked up the weapon. It was the first time anyone had seen him do anything of his own will without a prompt from someone else. Ventus? Aqua spoke up uneasily. Ventus looked at the wooden blade he had scooped up, only to switch it to the reverse grip he'd used when he collapsed before. The master and Terra stopped in their tracks and observed the boy. Ventus gave the wooden weapon a big swing. Would you like to give it a try, Ventus? When the master called out to him, Ventus leaped. The seasoned warrior easily parried the boy's strike, but the sight was enough to tell him that Ventus had once received training in some form. Good. Now once more. You have potential. Ventus dashed forward again at the master's words. He struck the master's keyblade with a nice rhythm, until he was eventually sent reeling. Are you all right, Ventus? The master extended a hand to the boy and helped him to his feet. Ventus gave a small nod. Well then, you will be joining us for practice beginning tomorrow. The master patted the boy on the head, though Ventus's expression was as empty as ever. Terra and Aqua ran up to him in joy. You're pretty good, Ventus. I was so surprised when you just picked up that sword. Ventus stared at the practice blade clutched in his hand as the two hovered around him. Now then, how about we end our training here for today? The master said with a smile on his lips. Looks like it's time for snacks, Aqua declared with a grin. What have you concocted for us today, Aqua? Master Ericus stroked his beard and asked with a grin. Today I have dancing lemon cake. It's not too sweet, so I'm sure Terra will like it too. In a slight daze, Ventus still held on to the wooden sword off to the side. Terra watched him with a slightly uneasy look. On the peak of the mountain in the evening sun, Terra worked his knife on a carving in the hilt of his favorite wooden keyblade. He had made the weapon himself some time ago. The movements of his hand were swift and sure. Terra! Aqua came up the mountain and looked at what was in his hand. Ventus was behind her. What are you up to? Personalizing your blade again? Yeah. Terra nodded, then held his beloved weapon up to the sunset. Terra made that one himself, Aqua said with the arm around Ventus's shoulders. The boy gazed at Terra's hands curiously. Just as Aqua baked cakes, Terra was known to do some woodworking from time to time. Okay, that should do it. It would probably fit his hand now. A little adjustment would be necessary, but it would be perfect before they knew it. Are you done? Done enough for today. Terra replied and set the wooden sword to one side. Aqua prompted Ventus to sit next to Terra, then sat herself down on the other side of the boy. The waning sunlight fell over the trio. Ventus gazed emptily at his own hands, paying no mind to the sunset, or maybe he was gazing emptily at nothing at all. Have you gotten used to the master's training, Venus? When Terra suddenly shortened Ventus's name, Aqua let out a pfft. What was that? Her shoulders shook as she lowered her head, unable to hold in her giggles. Guess it's just a little unusual. Terra replied curtly, maybe a bit embarrassed. Ventus looked up at Aqua, perhaps not sure what was going on. Is it really that funny to you? Aqua couldn't contain herself, and Terra scowled at her. Oh, come on. Aqua was laughing like it was one of the funniest things she'd ever heard, but she finally got herself under control and wiped away her tears. I guess Ventus is a little hard to remember. Aqua gave Ventus a long look. Ventus lowered his gaze as he realized he was under scrutiny. Pleased with himself, Terra spoke up. Right? Plus, Ven doesn't sound so formal. Ven. Yeah, maybe Ven is better. Aqua replied, and Terra put an arm around Ven. What'd you think, Ven? Ventus. Ven gave a small nod. Good. From now on, you'll be Ven. Aqua placed a hand on the boy's knee. The evening sun shone upon the three of them. While Terra and Aqua clashed with their practice swords nearby, Master Ericus carefully guided Ventus' stance and how he held his blade. Good. This is a defensive stance. There is no offense without defense, the master said as he adjusted Ventus' position with the weapon over his head. Ven listened earnestly to Master Ericus' words. Though he still didn't speak much, he was far different from before. I once sought the Keyblade, but my efforts to create it only destroyed Ventus' heart. Xehanort's words ran through the master's mind. He had said that Ventus was the result of an attempt to produce the Keyblade. Legend said the Keyblade was a mix of light and darkness, though Xehanort had not gone into the specifics of exactly how it was forged. Perhaps all of it lay concealed within Ventus now. Master, can we take a break now? Aqua's call brought Master Ericus back to the present. I suppose so. Let's take a breather, he replied, then quietly lowered Ventus' upraised hands. Today I have cherry berry tarts. Aqua was beaming as she made her announcement, and Master Ericus couldn't help but smile back. Berries, you say? Those are my favorite. They sure aren't mine. Terra hung his head off to the side. He wasn't terribly fond of fruit. I still have some of yesterday's open sesame cookies for you. Help me get the tea ready, then. Aqua prompted, and Ventus began to walk. His footsteps were so sure he seemed like a different person from before. He had recovered so much thanks to the efforts of Terra and Aqua. Ericus was genuinely happy to see Ventus' ongoing rehabilitation. However, he also knew he must be wary of the Keyblade's secrets concealed within the boy. Ericus wasn't sure whether his concern was truly necessary, but for the moment at least, Ventus had yet to recover his true heart, which meant strict vigilance was most likely unwarranted. Fully restored, Ventus would become an unknown variable, but judging from his condition as he recuperated, there was no excess of darkness lurking in his heart. That being the case, he doubted he would have any problems treating him as simply another pupil in his charge. You're quite the picky eater, Terra. Master Ericus gave his student a light pat on the back as he approached. It's only sweet stuff I'm not into. How come you, Aqua, and Ven are so crazy about it? I can turn the question back on you and ask why you aren't, Master Ericus retorted with a smile, then strolled over to the dining hall with a spring in his step. Terra started after him, a little gloomy. Terra's wooden keyblade sent Ven sprawling. Giving up already? Come on, Ven, I thought you were stronger than that. Terra smiled as he said this, not even out of breath. Ven, you almost had him. Just try it again. Hey, wait, you're teaming up now? Terra slumped dramatically as he watched Ven get to his feet. All right, bring it. He blocked Ven's strike. The boy still didn't talk at all, but he had changed greatly. Terra knocked Ven back again. Shall we take a break? Nodding at Aqua's suggestion, Terra lent Ven a hand and pulled him up. No cake today? I have it waiting in the dining hall since I thought we could share it with the master later. You like galactic caramel pound cake too, right? Terra and Aqua sat on the edge of the summit as they talked. Ven took a seat between them a moment later. In his hand, he carefully held a wooden sword. Ven, you see all those dents and nicks you got? Each one of those is proof you're learning. Terra and then Aqua encouraged him, but Ven's gaze remained slightly lowered, and he didn't react. You're trying too hard to move your body. You need to learn to let your body move you, right? Terra said, brandishing his blade. As it happened, his wooden keyblade was the finest of all the practice weapons Terra had made. He'd even carved his name into it. Terra got to his feet and gave a dramatic ahem. In your hand, take this blade, and as long as you have the makings, then through this simple act of taking, its wielder you shall one day be made. He raised the wooden keyblade aloft. What's that about? Who went and made you master? Aqua said in exasperation. Being a keyblade master is all I've dreamed about. Well, you're not the only one, Aqua said. I know. Terra nodded, then held out the wooden keyblade to Ven. You, me, and Ven all share the same dream. Ven reached out and grabbed it. Terra thought he caught a hint of Ven's very first smile, and he was glad to see it. Take it. It's yours. He'd been wanting to give his handmade sword to Ven at some point during their training together. A Terra-sized keyblade would be too big, though, which is why he had been fine-tuning it for so long. Huh? Aqua exclaimed. What about you? I'll use the one Ven was using for now and just make a new one. With that, Terra placed a hand on Ven's head and ruffled his golden hair. He could always make another one, and if Ven was happy, so was he. Hey, you hit the jackpot, Ven. Aqua looked Ven in the face with a smile. Thanks. Terra and Aqua looked at each other in shock. That was the last thing they expected to hear. No doubt about it, the voice was Ven's. It was the first word he'd spoken. Ven! In near-perfect sync, Terra and Aqua both peered into Ven's face, and the boy glanced back and forth between them with a surprised look of his own. What's wrong with you guys? Ven! Aqua hugged Ven tight, and Terra beside them kept mussing the boy's hair. Cut it out, Terra! Aqua! What gives? Stop treating me like a little kid! Ven grumbled. Laughter spilled out of Aqua, then Terra, and finally Ven joined in as well. For the very first time, the land of departure echoed with the laughter of all three apprentices. The teeth-grinding noise grated on his ears. Vanitas lowered his head, closed his eyes, and clenched his fists. A flood of something warm had poured into his heart all at once, bringing with it echoes of laughter. Right then, he could see through Ventus's eyes. And the kid was laughing. His consciousness was so clear he even knew the names of the two beside him. The man was Terra, and the woman was Aqua. Ventus was between them, laughing. So you're finally awake. Ventus stood, and unable to contain his fury, swung his keyblade at an unversed. The creature disappeared without a trace. A malice more intense than the pain it brought him turned the inside of his chest as black as pitch. Who was the target of his enmity? Ventus? The whole world? Maybe Xehanort? The two laughing next to Ventus? Vanitas didn't know. Maybe everything. The boy stood alone in the wasteland.